Today, I want to talk about something that I actually think Game Freak handles really well, and it is the fact that not everything has to be a type. I'd argue that Pokemon design is great precisely because not every recurring concept has to become one of the official types. Discussion about a new type drums up every time a new generation is announced, and it is to be expected. People are constantly coming up with hypothetical new types for Pokemon. Sound types, light types, cosmic types, plasma types. There's always some concept that people feel deserves to be elevated into a full type. The type system is one of the most visible and iconic parts of Pokemon, so naturally, whenever people notice some repeated theme or recurring concept, the instinct is to ask, why isn't this a type yet? I get why people do this. It is genuinely fun to wonder what a new type would be like, what designs they would have, and what they would do, how they would shake up the meta, how a new type could give old and power-crept Pokemon some new value. Sometimes it's for engagement because a Poketuber has to eat. I get it, it's fun and exciting. The issue arises when the people's desire for something blinds them to the opportunity cost or trade-offs required to make something work. It's like wanting a dog. Let's say you specifically want a husky because they look cool. If you're a homebody gamer gremlin that is not physically active, has no sense of routine, can't even keep yourself to a plan or schedule, you should not have a husky. You need to train it, groom it, feed it, change its water frequently, and give it physical and mental stimulation every single day. You don't get sick days, you don't get to dump it on friends and family, you don't get to hope it's a unicorn that'll just adapt to being lazy and inconsistent as you. Whatever you can't do has to be outsourced to a professional, so you'll have to monetarily invest. This is greater than your personal wants and desires. The quality of life of another being is affected. At its core, to get something, you must give something of equal value. Law of equivalent exchange and all that. I'm here to discuss why turning a concept into a type is a trade-off and is a sacrifice. Why preventing something from becoming an official type can actually be a benefit to us and expand design options. I'd like to add a bit of a disclaimer here and clarify that today's discussion is to help explain the pros and cons of adding a type, as opposed to proposing what type should or shouldn't be added. I wholeheartedly believe that it's perfectly okay to theorize and have thought experiments about a hypothetical situation. That's really the basis of many of my videos on this channel. It's actually a sign of many different types of intelligence and a huge green flag for me personally when someone can engage with the hypothetical to the fullest while still being grounded in the reality that something may be impossible or a bad idea. So ultimately, this is a discussion about how to think, not a discussion about what to think. First, we need to distinguish between a few related concepts. Pokemon already has many ways for creatures to strongly embody certain concepts without needing to officially be that type. Pokemon have move categories, themes, abilities, move distributions, and other characteristics that add to their identity. All of these things can culminate in what I've heard many people in the community refer to as an honorary typing. When I say honorary typing, I don't mean that the game literally treats the Pokemon as that type. I mean that the Pokemon is so strongly associated with some concept, move category, aesthetic, or battle style that it effectively functions like a member of that type family without officially needing that label. It is not a real third type, but it may as well be one in spirit. Next, let's talk about Pokemon that have an honorary typing due to mechanics. A great example of this is Koraidon. Koraidon is a dragon fighting type, but its ability Orichalcum Pulse automatically sets harsh sunlight and boosts its attack in harsh sunlight. Koraidon also gets a ton of fire type moves, and not just the moves that get given out willy-nilly like Flamethrower and Fire Blast. Koraidon gets Flare Blitz by level up, something that proper physical fire types had to wait years to get as a stab move. The automatic Harsh Sunlight effectively makes it stab for Koraidon, further adding to its honorary fire typing. There's also the cool lore implications for the Ancient Paradox Pokemon. All the Ancient Paradox Pokemon have an ability triggered by Harsh Sunlight, despite most of them not being fire type proper. They are all just adapted to the extreme heat and sun of their time period or parallel world. You know, on account of them all being dinosaurs that bask in the sun. For the purposes of battle, this also allows trainers to have Pokemon benefit from sun without needing them to be fire or grass type specifically. See how much variety, intrigue, and identity we got without needing to just slap fire type onto Koraidon and the other Ancient Paradox Pokemon? The future Paradox Pokemon similarly do not all have to be electric types specifically to justify being cybernetic, nor justify benefiting from electric terrain with Quark Drive. Both remain mysterious groups of Pokemon that are possibly from the ancient past or distant future of our world, or simply an alternative timeline of the multiverse. Labeling them with something like a Primal type or a Cyber type could potentially kill the mystery and ambiguity that makes the mystery fun. Here's another good example: Toxtricity. Toxtricity is an electric and poison type Pokemon. It has access to electric and poison moves, and the form many people think of is the yellow and purple amped form. It's electric guitar themed, with the signature punk rock ability to boost the power of sound moves like its signature overdrive. Thematically, behaviorally, and mechanically, this Pokemon is all about sound. Its whole identity is built around being loud, destructive, musical, and sonic. In a way, because Toxtricity is sound-themed in design and mechanics, the two official typings can be used to describe the quality and flavor of sound. Toxtricity sounds electronic and harsh. Consider a Pokemon like Exploud with its mono-normal typing. Maybe we can think of that pure normal typing as the purest sense of sound. No technique or flavor, just as loud as possible. Toxtricity is a very cohesive electric and poison Pokemon that also happens to specialize in sound-based techniques. Introducing a sound type onto Toxtricity might take away from Toxtricity as we know it. You may have to drop electric or poison from Toxtricity, then make the remove typing into an ability so that it still embodies all of its themes. Other Pokemon may be affected by a change like this. Skeledirge currently loves having two types it can mechanically use while benefiting from sound as a mechanic. Skeledirge benefits from being able to be a fire ghost that can use its unaware ability to ignore enemy boosts while still benefiting from spamming its signature move Torch Song to gain its own boosts and ignore substitutes. A fun mix of defensive and offensive tools unique to Skeledirge. Another example of a mechanic that would be more fun as a theme rather than a type would be explosions. Like sound, I'm sure that you could find a bunch of Pokemon and add an explosive type to them. Voltorb and Electrode blow up and aren't that good. Why not make them electric explosive? Blacephalon is a fire ghost. The design doesn't scream ghost other than being headless, so why not fire explosive? While it would be possible and potentially exciting to add an explosive type, we do risk making other types feel more shallow. Just like how sound as a mechanic allows us to use typing to theme the quality or characteristic of a sound used by a Pokemon, explosions as a mechanic can qualify the type of explosion. Blacephalon is a headless ghost that detonates its head to create fireworks. The Voltorb line works as electronic bombs, a disguised plastic explosive specifically. Coughing and Wheezing's tendency to explode thematically focuses on how noxious gases and chemical reactions can ignite and explode. Colossal is a fire rock type that thematically covers the concepts of coal mines, industry, steam engines, locomotives, furnaces, and so much more. Combustion is baked into the design of this signature move as well because tar, specifically coal tar and liquid tar, are highly flammable and the vapors they give off are heavier than air, which can add to the risk of combustion. The fact that all of these Pokemon of different types can converge towards the concept or technique of explosions without needing an explosive type is freeing for design. We could have other explosion-based dual type concepts too with this freedom. What about a Pokemon that is a forgotten landmine? It could be explosion themed while being some combination of dark, ghost, steel, or ground complete the landmine concept. Dark for the underhanded and sinister nature of landmines as well as the evil of leaving them behind. Ghost for the death they cause and for the useless no man's land that an abandoned minefield would leave behind. The steel and ground themes for a landmine are obvious. What about a puffball mushroom that explodes spores? Obviously it would be part grass because it's a mushroom, but the typing is an opportunity to explain why it explodes and make a mechanic out of it. A poison secondary typing could just be the classic poisonous gas cloud or spores. A secondary dark type might release a blinding smoke. An ice type secondary might explode a burst of frigid air that flash freezes the opponent. It could even stay a pure grass type that automatically causes leech seeds on contact. Here's a concept that Monster Hunter fans may recognize. Shout out to my fellow hunters, by the way. A fire secondary typing could be the mushroom releasing clouds of spores as explosive as gunpowder that could stick to the immediate area and its enemies. Then the mushroom could trigger a spark that triggers a large chain of explosions. like the Teostra. See how many ways we took the explosive theme and used the type to create a contextualized theme. The same could be said for light. Yeah, we could have a light type, but we could also keep light as a theme so that the other typings can be something that produces light, electric and fire as power and light sources, bioluminescent bugs, plants, and magical things, steel, rock, or ground as minerals, crystals, and technologies that refract, emit, or intensify light, magical, fairy, or psychic lights. Letting themes stay as just themes or mechanics instead of types allows the existing types to have less shallow identities and more ways to express their existing typings. It gives designers and fans more design flexibility. It prevents the type system from becoming too bloated, too restrictive, or too literal. An alternative way to think about Pokemon typings that might help folks is to picture their typings like an attunement or affinity to the elemental and conceptual typings. Let's depict a Pokemon's affinity as a pie chart. Look, I'm sorry y'all subscribed to me just to look at a spreadsheet and a pie chart, but I already told y'all I can't draw. So this is the best I've got until I can pay an editor a living wage. Pokemon's official type or dual typing could then be thought to represent one or two of the biggest slices of the pie chart, and the other less dominant slices are the latent affinity of the Pokemon. So for example, if a Pokemon is water and flying, then that means water and flying were the two biggest conceptual slices available to that Pokemon. It does not mean that water and flying are the only things going on with that Pokemon. It does not even mean that they are expressed in equal amounts. It just means that those were the most dominant aspects, enough to win out over the rest. Take Pelipper and Gyarados. Both are water flying type Pokemon, but they do not feel equally water and flying in practice. Pelipper is just a pelican. Its body shape, behavior, and move pool feel like they are pretty evenly and dominantly split between water and flying. If I were drawing a pie chart for Pelipper, I could very easily imagine it being 50% water and 50% flying, or at least very much around a 50-50 split. Now that we have Drizzle Pelipper, maybe we can argue that it's a little more watery, so maybe 55 to 60% water and 40 to 45% flying. The point still stands that it is overwhelmingly water and flying type, and no other affinities come close. Gyarados feels way more messy. Yes, Gyarados is water and flying, but flying feels much more secondary on it. Gyarados does not feel like a neat 50-50 water and flying split, and feels much more lopsided and crowded. It might be something like 50% water, 15% flying, then the remaining 35% split among other subdued affinities. Gyarados learns very few flying moves compared to how much water presence it has, and even beyond flying, there are other concepts competing for space in its identity. Dragon is the big one people always bring up, understandably. It's based on the legend of the koi that became a dragon. Given that many Generation 1 Pokemon were changed in development, maybe Gyarados was meant to be Water Dragon, but changed for balance reasons or design reasons. Water flying is what we've got to work with now, though. Gyarados has fire influence as the dragon that raises down forests in its rage, and electric and ice through the moves it can learn. Dark generally reflects the sinister, brute force, chaotic, and devastating temperament of this creature. Now thinking about it, maybe that's why Mega Gyarados gets a new dark typing instead of a dragon typing. Something about the Gyarados amplifies its potential for dark enough to make its dark affinity more dominant than flying, resulting in the new water dark typing. Consider Charizard, one of the classic honorary dragon Pokemon. Charizard is not dragon type in its base form, but it is absolutely draconic. It looks draconic, behaves draconic, and belongs to that whole fantasy space. Ignoring balance and being a starter for just a moment, we can say it's fire and flying because fire and flying are the two biggest pieces of the pie chart. Charizard might very well be something like 50% fire, 30% flying, and 20% dragon. Dragon is there, just not dominant enough. It's latent until we involve Mega Evolution. Charizardite X amplifies the affinity for dragon so much that it overshadows flying as a secondary typing. Maybe Mega Charizard X is 45% fire, 45% dragon, and 10% flying. A Charizardite Y amplifies the affinity for fire so much that it gets the drought ability and summons harsh sunlight. In this case, Charizard becomes something like 60% fire, 35% flying, and 5% dragon. You get the idea at this point. You could probably use this pie chart concept with any other Pokemon that feels like they have honorary typings. Porygon, Gligar, Lugia, Cresselia, Delmise, all the pink blobs that could be fairy, and all the mythicals like Celebi or Victini that could also be seen as fairy. If you'd like to see that as a standalone video, let me know. I may as well use the pie chart if it helps or is entertaining. Okay, the last little section we will talk about are Pokemon that specifically need to be the typing they are because the whole point is subversion. Sudowoodo is a great example of a Pokemon that is very obviously not supposed to be a grass type. It's a rock that disguises itself as a tree to avoid being attacked. And the running joke is that all this does is make people water it when it hates being wet. I've explained this to some adult Pokemon fans before, and even then they still just say confidently incorrect things like, right, but it looks like a tree, so it should at least be part grass type. It would make more sense that way. I genuinely wish I was lying, but media literacy is a lot to ask from people when basic literacy and listening comprehension is low. Come on, man, it's literally Sudowoodo, the reason so many children learned what the prefix pseudo means. Even in Japanese, its name sounds like false wood or false tree. Seriously proposing that Sudowoodo is actually a plant is as silly as suggesting that a random auntie that likes leopard print fashion is 100% a furry. Another great example would be Fomantis and Lurantis. The design works specifically because it's not a bug or a bug type. Actual mantises are predatory bugs that will disguise themselves as plants to evade predation or enable ambushing prey. Orchid and flower mantises specifically wiggle and act like flowers to ambush insects trying to get near real flowers. Lurantis is a subversion because it's a predatory plant, a pure grass type, that pretends to be a bug. By acting like a bug, grass-eating bugs like Weedle and Charjabug don't recognize Lurantis as food, allowing Lurantis to strike and turn them into a meal. Lurantis as a plant is also able to release sweet, insect-luring smells. The bugs that approach seeking out a flower or fruit get sickled by a plant hidden in plain sight. Lurantis also has a flower mode where it circles back to pretending to be a flower. This flower disguise is likely to prevent being attacked by insectivore predators bigger than Lurantis, as well as aid in luring small prey that would be afraid of mantises. Even its shiny form is engaging in mimicry to look like the normal green mantises that try and blend in with leaves. Making Lurantis part bug anyway completely misses the point and ruins the role reversal. That was a lot of theory and yapping, so I will end it here for now. To reiterate, my argument isn't that adding new types is always a bad idea, or that popularly requested types like sound and light are doomed to fail, or something conclusive and dramatic like that. Honestly, if you watch my videos and the key takeaway is that there's only one right answer, only one way to think, and it has to agree with mine, something was lost in translation, my friend. No, the point is to get everyone on the same page and seriously consider that there are permanent sacrifices and traits that have to occur if we add certain types. We got 2 new types around 25 years ago and 1 new type 13 years ago. We've never removed a formal Pokemon type in the video game, so based on the pattern, it's safe to assume Game Freak is very conservative with such a permanent decision. Continue to have fun theorizing about whatever types you want, but maybe now the conversation can go deeper than needing a new type for balance or updating less popular Pokemon. Maybe we can talk more about Megastones that bring out latent typings in Pokemon, more move categories, more themes for Pokemon, and the typings that would give those themes some color and texture. Let me know what parts of the video you'd want to talk more about. I can do follow-ups and expand upon anything that folks found interesting. I genuinely do find thought experiments like this fun. This is a bit unprompted and unrelated, but try and do something nice for someone today. Bonus points if it's a stranger. It can be big or small, but every day is a rough time for someone out there, and every little bit of kindness makes the world a better place. You don't even have to actively do something good. Just taking the extra moment to not be unkind is something good for half the effort. Oh, and if you're watching this sick at home or right before bed, be kind to yourself and know you deserve to rest. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you some other time. Bye.